Think about a time when someone said something about some aspect of your identity that made you feel insulted or slighted. Even if they didn't intend it, you probably experienced a microaggression.
A microaggression is something that someone says to someone else without knowing that it may be offensive.
It hurts. So that's how I know it's a microaggression, because it feels disrespectful.
And it's not like outright racism, but it's something that is like almost unconscious in the way that you view people.
Most microaggressions are subtle and indirect, but they occur frequently in the daily interactions of members of historically underrepresented groups. And most often, people who commit microaggressions think of themselves as well-intentioned, non-racist, non-sexist people. They do not realize that the underlying messages communicated by their actions or comments are hurtful to other people.
One of my friends asked if my parents had their papers. I had a science teacher, a physics teacher, and he told me that I was the smartest black girl in his class.
I've been asked if I understood what they were talking about, or like, do you need any translation and stuff just based on my name?
Like, I'm not the spokesperson for the whole black community, but that's a microaggression I do experience a lot. Like, they want the black perspective. And I'm usually the only black girl in the class. So it's like, okay, what's your take on this?
Oftentimes I get asked, do you know how to speak your native language? And when I answer I do, it's just like, they're like, okay, well, what does Ching Chao mean?
There are 3 types of microaggressions: micro-assaults, micro-insults, and micro-invalidations. A micro-assault is similar to what we think of as overt discrimination. In the case of micro-assaults, those acts are intentional.
I was a server for a long time, and if anyone else was, you know this. In the back of the kitchen, when someone gets a table of, say, Indian people, I hope this is PC, I don't know all the terms, but Indian people or black people or anyone, they'd be like, who wants that table? I don't want it, they're not gonna tip.
I work as a research assistant, and so a while ago, one of the our new RAs, when I was a few months into it, came up to me and just mentioned that even though we'd known each other for months at that point, you're the least scary black guy I've ever met. In the way that I dress, the way that I talk, the way that I speak, I've kind of tailored that over the course of my education to be non-threatening.
I will literally have my keys in my hand, they're always with me, and I'll just jingle them as I'm walking so that they know that I know that I'm there, so that we both know that I'm right here and I'm not gonna try and do anything to be stupid.
One of my friends commented to me, he said, I don't really even think you're black, you're, and I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're smart, you do your work, yes, you're athletic, but you do your work, you're smart, so I don't really know if you're black. I was like, I didn't understand. It made me question who I was and if I was still a part of the culture.
A micro-insult is a comment that communicates the demographic group is not respected, that person is a slight exception to the stereotype. It's an insult, even though the perpetrator thinks he has just rendered a compliment.
I've heard, you're so pretty for a black girl. I feel like it discounts me as a person, and then I feel like it discounts my race.
So another type of micro-insult is when students in the classroom are dismissed or treated almost as if they're invisible. For instance, in some of our sciences or engineering classes, there are few women, and professors often don't call on those women.
A lot of professors tell me to my face that they were surprised that I was as good as a student as I was, and that I paid attention in class and actually participated. And when I asked why, they said, well, you just come off as a troublemaker. You have all these piercings and short hair as a girl and tattoos, and we just naturally assumed that you weren't really going to be any good.
Another type of micro-insult is when a professor says to a student, wow, you speak really good English. The message is, the professor thinks I don't really belong here, or that I'm not really American. Of course I speak good English. I was born in the United States. But the professor sees a Latina or an Asian and makes the assumption that that person is foreign, or at least that is what the target hears. What is the underlying message when somebody asks if you're legal?
That you don't belong to this country.
That you don't belong, that's right.
The assumptions I get the most is that I'm very academic and that I'm very good at math. When they assume stuff like that, it makes me feel like they're taking the individual out of who I am and just assuming that all the people who look like me act like me, and that kind of makes me feel lesser of what I can do.
A microinvalidation is a comment or action that dismisses the experiences of historically disadvantaged group members. And one that we hear a lot about today is being colorblind. When people say, I don't notice you're black, I don't notice you're Latina, I don't see color. What does that mean? How do you interpret that? What are people saying when they say, I don't notice your race, I don't see color?
The impact on students that can be harmful is that it creates an uncomfortable environment or climate. One of the big things is that you just don't feel like you belong or are included.
So common microaggressions committed by faculty in the classroom include the following. Mispronouncing students' names after they have repeatedly corrected you. Referring to students by the wrong pronouns. Calling on men while ignoring women in class discussions. Or calling only on white students and ignoring the students of color in your classroom. Scheduling tests or projects during religious or cultural holidays. Be aware of assigning projects that disregard socioeconomic status. Be aware of using heterosexist examples in class. When professors give heteronormative examples, atoms attract like males and females, or there's an assumption of bring your girlfriend or bring your boyfriend, an assumption that you're heterosexual. We make an assumption that heterosexuals are the normal people.
One of the biggest things is pronouns when it comes to transgendered people, individuals, because sometimes they'll tell you, hey, I prefer these pronouns, and when a person doesn't choose to go by, female pronouns or male pronouns, it invalidates their person.
As a faculty member, you are responsible for the climate in that classroom. You, the faculty member, are responsible for every single person's sense of belonging in that classroom. You are responsible for every person's opportunity to learn.